Okay, very good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Lasham Daily Briefing for Monday, the 26th of May, 2025. We'll get straight into it with the synoptic to begin with. Starting yesterday at lunchtime, we managed a decent day yesterday. I think most people got around the task that was set for the comps, and we did some reasonable amount of club flying as well on the back of that. And overnight, see that those fronts moved further to the east over the continent, and we've got again some fairly packed isobars there, giving us some pretty strong winds, steady sort of westerly or west southwesterly flow. Going into midday today, however, we can see this trough starting to approach us, and that's going to be bringing with it some low cloud, which we can already see outside, and associated rain probably by about lunchtime. And alongside that, we've got a depression centre just off the western coast of Ireland. With that, fair bit of frontal activity, along with another one up towards the Faroe Islands. And midnight tonight, those fronts from the west are going to hit us. It's going to be fairly damp overnight and into tomorrow, low cloud with this warm front as that low gets closer and closer. Overnight on Tuesday, hopefully clearing a little bit and giving us some slightly clearer and more unstable air on Wednesday, but we shall see. And high pressure working its way towards us by around Thursday. But back to today, looking at the sat pic at the moment, as of 8:45 local, you can see cloud has thinned out a little bit since this morning with some blue visible. However, there's quite a significant amount of cloud coming in from the west. And unfortunately, I think that's going to steadily fill in throughout the day today from about 10 o'clock. We'll have a look at that a little bit later on. Rain associated with that, quite a lot of showery activity at the moment, and in the direction of that where that trough's coming from, really quite a lot of heavier rain over Ireland at the moment, more likely to develop as it comes in via the Irish Sea. Met Office rain forecast again as of 9 o'clock, recognizing those showers that we were seeing on the radar. We just run that through. You can see steadily passing showers, but no significant rainfall here really. But showers hitting us by about lunchtime. And that trough very much evident into the afternoon. And we should definitely be getting a fair amount of rain, probably by about 5 or 6 o'clock this evening. So Meta from Odium, there's no TAF being a bank holiday, but they were reporting 23013 knots, visibility greater than 10 kilometers, with few clouds at 1,700 feet and broken at 5,700 feet, with a temperature of 12 and a dew point of 8. The pressure is increasing now, we're up to 1017. And to Farnborough, who do have a tough, they're reporting very much the same in terms of the METAS, not quite as much low cloud, and accumulation of 1017. TAF, on the other hand, they're giving us 24012 knots, visibility 10 kilometers or more, few at 4.5, and then between 10 and 4, there's a tempo of 6,000 meter vis with rain showers, and there's a prop 30 in as well, between 1 and 4 local of 260, 15, gusting 25. So quite similar conditions to yesterday in terms of the wind, but just a little bit more associated precipitation and cloud. On the subject of wind, the upper winds, or spot winds, I should say, to the south of us, we're looking around 240. At 1,000 feet, we're getting 25 knots. At 2,000 feet, we're getting 30 knots. Whereas to the north, slightly lighter, 1,000 feet, once again, 240 for both 20 and 25 knots, respectively. And surface wind, just confirming that with windy, so west-southwesterly, much the same as yesterday, but that's fairly brisk flow across Lasham. On to the local Met Office forecast, and they're in agreement with the fairly significant amount of cloud, with showers starting to appear later into the afternoon and increasingly likely from sort of 4 o'clock onwards. Maximum temperature of around 15 degrees, feeling quite a bit cooler around 12 with that fairly brisk wind, and average of 14 knots, gusting up to 30 at around 2 o'clock. Visibility should be very good, and humidity percentage is starting to climb now with all of this moisture in the air. Fairly low UV for much of the day, peaking at 4 at 1 o'clock, but then quickly dropping off after that. GFS then for the temperature, giving us between 15 and 16 degrees in the warmest part of the day, with a dew point of around 7. In terms of temperature, we're already up to 13.8 with a dew point of 8.2 at Lasham. So fairly high cloud base based on that, sort of between 1,500 and 2,000 feet. But we'll see how that develops. Look at SkySight now. We've got a few tabs here from SkySight just to look at what's going on. We'll start off as normal with the point forecast, and it's not particularly encouraging, suggesting earlier shower activity than the Met Office were. You can see a little bit of top cover, which you can see at the moment in places, not quite as thick as they're suggesting, but then filling in from sort of 10:30, 11 o'clock onwards and becoming really rather unsoarable for most of the day. Might be brief periods of convection that's usable, but that combined with the wind is not giving us a very good outlook. On the left-hand side of the screen here, you can see an excerpt from the potential flight distance, which is by no means the be-all and end-all, but it's not particularly encouraging. Thermal top winds fairly strong in places, but quite inconsistent, but sort of between 20 and 25 knots in places, westerly. And pressure's sort of going to be maintaining 1017 throughout the day, dropping off slightly into the afternoon as that low starts to get a bit closer, but it's not changing significantly into tomorrow. Just have a look at what we're expecting the cloud to do. Have a look at this tephogram starting, or SKT starting at 9 o'clock, and you can see fairly close in terms of the temperature and dew point, but a bit of a gap there. If we just run that through by 10 o'clock, it's very nearly touching 10:30. We now have these two lines touching, and therefore we're expecting quite a bit of cloud. And that is initially about 3,500 feet, so just under 3 local to Lasham. And as we go on through the day, it just gets worse and worse. We get thicker layer of cloud, possibly a slight clearance as something blows through at about 12:30. But then beyond then, it's fairly thick cloud again. I'm looking at that in terms of the SkySight's cross section. We can see that cloud base maybe moving up to sort of 3,000 feet, with a little bit of convection soarability underneath, but showers beginning to hit around lunchtime and then quite significantly later on into the day with a fair bit of mid-layer cloud as well. And just having a look at top meteors cloud distribution, see what they have to say. Starting at 9 o'clock local, you can see we've got a little bit of Q and sort of strata Q below the cirrus. And if we cycle that through hour by hour, you can see there is a fair bit of cumulus, but it is below the auto Q. And as the day goes on, the cloud just begins to thicken. And with that, we get more intense shower activity. And you can very much see that weather moving in from the west. NOTAMs then, just a few effectors locally, but there's possible tasking wind into the north, so we'll talk about a couple of those as well. But we're starting off with number 17, as normal, is Bart and Stacey, live firing. It's been for the last few days. 19, near Lasham, that is, of course, the Lasham competition NOTAM. And up at 22, we've got high clear parachute jumping. That's from surface to 4,900 feet. And that is valid from 1 o'clock to 4:15 local time. That's local time. 18, there's flare firing at Thursley. That's not until later on this evening, so it shouldn't be a factor. And then 25 and 26, At 25, we've got Opera live firing surface to 1500 feet. That's AMSL. And at 22, I beg your pardon, 26, we have Little Rislington there. ATZ has been activated. That will be from 8 o'clock until 7 o'clock local time, and that's for the next few days. Moving on now to the airfield briefing. And I'm going to look at the Odium cross-section. Not particularly a miserable looking one there. It certainly looks a bit better than yesterday did in places, but fairly consistent clouds, not going much above 2,500 feet. And then it becomes fairly overcast later on from about 2 o'clock onwards. With the wind as well, there's forecast turbulence, but they're suggesting up to 4 knots in terms of thermal strength. I think that's a little bit optimistic based on everything else we're seeing. I think there's going to be a bit more cloud perhaps than is being predicted here, but only time will tell. They're giving 250 about 10 knots, gusting up to 20 in the earlier part of the day and potentially gusting up to 30 when we've got the greatest amount of mixing. No significant weather warnings in, just as a prop 40 for showers and rain. And there's a hazard in for strong winds as well. Maximum temperature expected to be 17. I think that's, again, quite optimistic, and it'll feel quite a bit cooler with the wind. Glider bookings, not very much going on today. There's lots of single-seater availability. There's one K21 on the casual list for club members. And I think we've now got maybe 2 since this morning on the casual list. So if we could get an instructor to help out, even if it's just in the simulator, that would be much appreciated. There's nothing to report today from 2XL. And in summary, it's clear initially, but likely filling in mid-morning. Brisk westerly winds with rain expected by lunchtime. If we do operate, we'll be going from runway 27, winch from the pan as we've been doing for the last couple of days, and the comp grid is already being set up on 27 hard. Please make sure you're ready when the cable or tug arrives as always, and do not land or taxi across the disused runways shown here in red. That's our airfield setup there, as it has been with the winch on the pan, I beg your pardon, the launch point on the pan and the winch down towards 2XL. And as we did yesterday, we'll be operating with that variable center line with the comp gliders most likely being tasked up to the north. So they'll be wanting to come back in for 27. So we will use the same system, this line that's mown quite clearly in the grass. That's where the center line that we must not cross will be moved to. So left-hand circuits must remain south of this yellow line, whereas right-hand circuits on the north side, they can extend past the traditional runway center line, but must not cross, again, that mown line here. That's all from me today. I'll see you through in the clubhouse very shortly. And if we do go flying, let's make sure we keep it safe and have fun. Thank you very much.